Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today. um, I'm Sam. Some of you may have seen me before in the webinars, in the TrainOn webinars. I am very sick with a fever, so I will be taking the passenger seat today, not the back seat, but the passenger seat with Bobby. And we'll both be talking about how to build out your curriculum to maximize engagement. And we're going to go through a lot of different features EdApp has, but how to really space them out and use them in a interesting way, in a way that drives learners to remember, to beat the forgetting curve, and to engage with the material. So that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Bobby to get started.
Thanks for the intro, Sam. Hey, everyone. Good morning. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Bobby. I'm a client success manager here based out of the US. I'm going to be steering today. And like Sam said, every now and then he's going to drop his knowledge, just to help make sure that, you guys are aware of the things you need to do to structure, a solid training program. All right. So on my next slide here, oops, let me just go back one. On my next slide here, I just have some of the features that we're going to talk about today. So, when we talk about structuring a learning plan, obviously you have, your basic course structure with lessons and courses, but there's a lot of other features that are currently out that you can use to diversify your learning plan. And to, not only help make sure that your learners are retaining the knowledge, but also make sure that they want to come back and they stay engaged, whether that be week over week or month over month. And we'll also talk about some new features and settings coming soon that will definitely, increase that diversity. And also we'll be able to make your life a little easier when it comes to, scheduling courses or setting access rules. Sam, before I move on, anything to add there before we move on?
Yeah, it's the real goal here is to create a culture and a routine of learning. I think that as an educator, I would say, oh, I want you to take a course every week. But that's not realistic for our clients. And usually what happens is there's probably a course a month. So when we're talking about, month one, month two, which we will be in a little bit, just know that that could be any frequency that works for you. I would just say to make it consistent. So if it's monthly, for it to be the first of every month, so that your learners know what to expect and when to expect, or the first Friday of that month of when they can look for their courseware. When it gets sporadic, it's just not as consistent. So to keep that consistent, keep the frequency consistent. And yeah, but I think that's what I would add.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, moving on now. Like Sam said, I think training plans really vary depending on, how many courses you may have to publish, or, whether you want to, drip courses weekly or monthly. So I have two charts in here. I have one by week and I have one by month. I think that for the most part, we probably see, by month used more often, but it doesn't mean that you can't accelerate that plan and maybe publish, a course a week. I have some clients that publish a couple of lessons per week. But I think that probably one of the key success factors here when it comes to rolling out NetApp is to make sure that you don't overwhelm your learners, especially at launch. You don't have to publish, 10 courses and show them all of those courses all at once. I think that our most successful clients are the ones that maybe publish a course a month and then use some of these other elements that we'll be talking about today in more detail. But, this is just a suggested timeline. Again, I think every client is a little different, but, I think that definitely in the month 0 column on this screen here for enabling Brain Boost, so that's currently out right now. I think that's something that you would probably want to do for any courses that you're looking to publish in your account. And then observations and group training are some of the new features that I'll touch on in a couple of slides, after this. But there's some new features coming out that, you can definitely add to this training, journey that you have here. And this is just suggested, right? If you wanted to put in an observation, maybe in a couple of courses, or maybe you want to do that for a couple of months, I think that's also a great idea here. Also in this plan, we have some rapid refresh quizzes. I know that a lot of my clients use this as pre and post assessments, but maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you just want to have all of the quizzes in the authoring tool. That's totally fine. But we recommend to diversify all the features that you're using, and rapid refresh is a great way to along with Brain Boost to help reinforce some knowledge that you're teaching them in the courseware. Plus, you can also pull in some stuff from outside as well. So maybe I always like to bring up the example where, maybe you guys went to a conference or you had a company meeting and you reviewed something, instead of creating a full-blown lesson or course out of it, maybe you can just send them out a quick quiz. So.
And just to talk about the rapid refresh use here and observations, is this can really inform what the courses will be based on. So rapid refresh, or Brain Boost, excuse me, which is basically an AI structure that happens every week. I believe it's weekly, right? Where it quizzes and reinforces courses. Rapid refresh can be a pre-assessment in the fact that you can have a set of questions and see where people are lacking, where they're getting the answers wrong. And that can inform what is course 2 going to be, what is course 3 going to be. So it can really, really help in those knowledge gaps and skills gaps. So rapid refresh can be used in that way. And for the people that don't know what rapid refresh is, it's a feature where you put in many multiple choice questions in an Excel sheet, you click upload, and it deploys it. It turns it into an EdApp quiz. And it's really, really good, really great for analytics and things like that. And if you're not using rapid refresh, just a pre-assessment to see where skills, where there's skill gaps and knowledge gaps, that's going to inform what course 2, 3, and 4 obviously would be about. So I think another thing that's really important about this chart is it doesn't say quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, because what happens with a lot of traditional kind of instructional design is that you'll get a module. You'll say, okay, this is due by the end of the quarter, and that's when it gets done, by the end of the quarter. And it feels like, oh, it's something I have to do in the background. It's an obligation. It's not a culture of learning. And so when you have these kind of consistencies and diversity of how you deliver that continuing education, then it really creates a culture of learning. So when we have courses, we have assignments and rapid refresh and observations, group training, all of those things, and having kind of that holistic program and curriculum is going to make it feel like a real culture of learning and to push it forward. That's what I would add. Thank you, Bobby.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. All right. So before I share my screen and show some of the features that are already live in the platform, I just wanted to touch base on some of those things that are coming soon. So observations should be coming pretty shortly. This would probably be coming in the next month or so. This is going to be a really great feature to start incorporating some of the in-person training that you're doing inside of that app here. So for those of you that aren't familiar with what observations are, what you're going to be able to do shortly is where the drop-down arrow is next to create a lesson where you can create discussions and assignments, there will be a create observation button. So you as an admin can go in, or a content author can go in, and what you can do is you can create a checklist, kind of like as you see here. It doesn't just have to be like multiple choice. You can have different options. You can have text boxes. You can have, little tick boxes as well. So, say if you need to assess someone doing something on the job, maybe like a facilitator or a manager needs to actually see someone doing something in the field before they're certified to do a certain task. Observations is a great way to do that, which is awesome. So from the learner's view, once they get to the observation, there would be a QR code that looks something like this. And an admin or facilitator can scan that QR code with a mobile device or a tablet, and it will bring them right to the admin portal where they can start, filling out the assessment for this one user. And what's nice about this is that for observations, it's kind of like a discussion or assignment where it's one of those other lesson types. So, you can set it up, or maybe this is the last thing they have to do before they complete a course. So if they don't pass this observation, they can't pass the course. This could also just be, standalone, in a course by itself, if you wish to do so. But I think it makes more sense if it's tied to some modules. Okay. But again, observations should be coming out pretty shortly here, and we're really excited. I'm sure that you'll be getting some emails from client success managers for those of you that have enterprise accounts, and some marketing emails as well when this feature finally rolls out. But again, this is just a great way that you'll be able to go in there as an admin, check off to see if they're doing things, and then you can decide if they pass or fail this observation. And as a learner, I can also see, like, if I failed this a couple of times, I can see my results for each try to, see, the feedback that maybe the manager or facilitator left for me, just to see what I can do better next time. So that's our observations feature here. Next, I'm going to talk about group training. So this is slated to be released in the platform later this year. But this also is another way to incorporate some of the in-person training into TED So, say if you have a bunch of people together, maybe in a conference room or something like that, this would kind of be like what the admin view would be like here. So as a learner, if I have this up on a screen somewhere, I could scan this QR code to register myself that I was a part of this class. I can also search for a learner as an admin here. So, say if say if someone doesn't have a mobile device, you can just manually search for them and add them to this group session. And then what you can do here is you can go through all of the lessons in this course, or from my understanding, you can go through some of the lessons in the course. And then you can click this finish class button, and those users that were part of this list will be marked as complete. So I think that this could be really useful, if you're doing a lot of the in-person training now, maybe you do a couple of lessons, through the group training, and then maybe you have them do a quiz or maybe a rapid refresh after you do this group training session to quiz them on their knowledge to make sure that they were paying attention.
And this is so interesting too, Bobby, because this joining of in-person training in the same platform as EdApp is huge. There are things that an asynchronous learning module, which basically means you're not in a classroom, right? You're on your phone and you're taking a lesson. There's things that you cannot replicate that are from in-person training, and the other way around. And it's about being smart with what you put into the lesson that people are taking on their phone personally, and what you're putting in the in-person training. Because if you have an in-person training, or if you have an in-person training, using scenario-based learning or lessons and courses is going to be really, really important. Because before you get out on the floor, it's important to have the room for people to make mistakes, for people to answer incorrectly, and not be embarrassed in front of their employees or their peers. And that's a really good use of an asynchronous learning module, the lesson on your phone. Now, a lot of learning happens on the floor. A lot of learning happens in person. And alongside microlearning, it's really, really effective to have that diversity. So thank you for this, Bobby.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. The next two slides are going to be a couple of new settings coming out that are going to be complete game changers in that app. So the first one here is there's going to be a separate section added to the access rules tab and course settings. So right now, if I were to go and click, access dates here, it's static to whoever's assigned the course. So if I have a new hire that starts, maybe a couple of days before a course expires, they might not be able to complete that in time. So relative due dates is going to be a dynamic way that you can enroll users in courses, and also automatically set an expiry date. So this is saying in this example, 12 months after this user completes the course, they'll automatically be re-enrolled in the course. And notifications will also be tied to this as well. So an admin and a learner would be able to get notifications here saying, hey, you need to be recertified in this course. So, they can get a push notification on that, which is awesome. I will go into the access rules currently to show you what we have now, and we'll talk about some things that you may want to set, when you're thinking about creating your learning journey, especially at launch. Before I move on, Sam, you have anything else you want to add here before I move on?
No, just that I'm really excited for this feature. It's going to help in the kind of set it and forget it um, thing that we
Mhm.
like to do in EdApp, where you set the due date and then you don't have to worry about it. You can rely on these relative due dates. So that's really great. Very
Awesome.
exciting.
And talking about the set it and forget it on my next slide here, soon you're going to be able to schedule a course to be published. So right now, if you publish a course, it will go out right then and there to, all of your users or certain user groups. Soon you'll be able to go in and you'll be able to pick a day and time on when you want this to be published. So this can also really, improve that kind of set and forget it, as an admin here, because instead of maybe on the day that you want it to be published, maybe you want to publish early, you have to wake up early or something like that. Now ahead of time, you'll be able to schedule a course, which is awesome. And then whenever that date rolls around, it'll be automatically published, and then your learners can start taking that course. So this is just another really nice thing that you'll be able to do soon. And again, we'll help with the planning process along your training journey as well. So, instead of, maybe for the month scenario, instead of every month you go in on the first of the month, like Sam had mentioned, and go in and publish a course, you can just schedule it out all ahead of time. So this with the relative due dates, this is going to be released, sometime later this year. But, I wanted to mention this because it does kind of tie into, prepping for your learning journey here. And, it's just going to help you in the future here. But yeah, before I move on to the live demo, Sam, is there anything I missed or anything you'd like to add here before I move on?
I don't think so. I think that having those relative due dates and the scheduling is just it's going to be able to help you create that consistency, and so that's really important.
Agreed.
But no, let's get
Agreed.
into that live demo.
All right. You heard him. So let's give me one moment here. All right, so let's get into the platform now. All right, so I have a test account up here. I have the week example here, but again, this could be, instead of week 1, week 2, this could be months, okay? Before I get into any of the courses, I do kind of want to follow the timeline that we have here. So Brain Boost was one of the things that we had as week 0. So if I come here and come to the Brain Boost tab, I think that as a good best practice, and I say this to my clients, you should really enable Brain Boost whenever you're looking to publish a course. So maybe if you're going to publish, in this case, this scenario, 5 courses, I can come to the Brain Boost tab here in the admin portal. And here I can come and I can boost slides. So here, these are all of the courses that I have in my account. It'll show here that they're all in draft, which is fine. But if I come in here, I can hover over one of these courses and I can choose slides. So before I move on here, for those of you that don't know what Brain Boost is, I think this is one of the coolest features that we have in our LMS here. So Sam had touched on this a little bit before, but as learners go through and complete courseware, the interactive slide templates that you create in your courseware, so that's going to be the multiple choice, the concepts, the relationships, and the number type slides. What you can do when you enable Brain Boost is you can repurpose them in a separate slide. So as a learner, if I go through and start completing courses, as long as they're enabled here, these slides will be repurposed to me in a separate quiz to help with the retention of the knowledge. Sam, I know that you love to talk about the forgetting curve. So do you just want to touch on that while we're here?
Absolutely. So what the forgetting curve theory is that if that we forget things over the course of time, if there's no attempt to retain it, or if there's no there's no attempt to retain it. So even after a day, someone will forget it, maybe 70% of what they learned the day before, and so on and so forth. So, what is so important and how to beat that forgetting curve is to have something like Brain Boost, where even a mention of some of the key words or some of the key concepts that happened in that lesson last week, or let's say you took the lesson on Monday and you got your Brain Boost that mentioned the same thing on Friday. You just reset that curve, and if you continue to do that, so let's say you're building a course curriculum and you have 6 different courses. What I would suggest to everybody here is, when you do have subsequent courseware, is that you mention the words that happen in the course that happened before. So even if it was, let's say, something about forklifts and then something about fall protection, even a mention about some of the concepts that were in forklifts in fall protection, it's going to kind of reinvigorate and connect your courseware and make it that much more cohesive together. So Brain Boost is a great way to do that. It resets that forgetting curve once you see that concept and you take that concept and you remember it again. And having that consistency in education is going to be really, really important. And even if you're doing things like soft skills, or you're doing things like that, which can also be really, really great with Brain Boost, it can keep people sharp. So I think that's a really good thing to do.
For sure. It definitely keeps people sharp, because the algorithm that we use, every few days, it will push a new Brain Boost quiz. So if I go in and I complete my first Brain Boost quiz, maybe in a few days, it'll push me another one. And the more courses that I complete, the more pool of questions that I would have that would feed into my Brain Boost personally, which is awesome. As an admin here, I can go through and I can click through some of these slides, and it's broken down here by lesson inside of this course. But, maybe for some reason, if you didn't want to include a certain slide here that would go towards the Brain Boost, I can just untick this box. I usually recommend that, in most cases, you should probably just leave all of these ticked. So I can come here and I can add these to my selection here. And I can also do multiple courses at once. So if I wanted to do all of the courses in my account at once, I could, but I'm just going to do this one for now. So I'll come here and I'll boost 8 slides. And now you'll see here that now in this list, I have one course here. It's in draft. And then when I go to publish the course, it would say published. From this screen too, you can see some quick stats here, for boosted slides, learners activated and learners started, but I'm not going to get into that in this webinar. I did a webinar on full webinar on Brain Boost a few weeks ago. So I would just make sure you check our YouTube channel for that if you're interested in what the reporting looks like here. But Brain Boost is a really great way to, make sure that your learners are, retaining that knowledge, and then they're also going to come back and engage with the platform that you set up, This is really one of our set and forget it type of settings that we have here, because all you would have to do as an admin is come in here, boost the slides, and then your work is done. And then again, as a learner, as I go through and complete the courses, the bigger the number of slides that I have to take will increase. So Brain Boost, again, is a really great way to do that and help with the forgetting curve. All right, so let's move on to the courses now. So here I have these broken down into weeks, and again, these could be months. So instead of week 1, week 2, it could be month 1, month 2. So when going back to that calendar type slide that I had before, each week here has something different, aside from lessons inside of it, to help engage with your audience here. So if I go into week 1 here, you'll see that I have an assignment at the end of this course here. So if I go ahead and click on this assignment here, this is where, this is where in NetApp, if you wanted for, a longer form response to be graded with a pass or a fail grade, this is what assignments is going to be the feature that you're going to want to use. So maybe you want them to write, in this case, a 4-sentence minimum response, or maybe you even want them to write something a little bit longer. They can come in here and then they can respond to this. There are some, user group visibility settings and completion requirements here. Peers would be able to see each other's assignment posts, but maybe if you were using user groups in your account, maybe you just want to limit this to people within their certain user group. So they wouldn't be able to see everyone's assignment responses. They would just be able to see those inside of their user group here. And actually, let me go back one moment here. Go ahead, Sam.
And to kind of just add on to that, the assignments and discussions feature that we have requires the least amount of work, I would say, from the admin side of things. And you get a big payback for that work. Your ROI is off the charts here because really you're asking a question that's a sentence. The question is not a long, typed thing. But what happens is people respond with real reflective experience and responses, and they can see their peers' knowledge about something. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're at a car, let's say you're a car dealership, and there's someone who's been there for 10 years, there's someone who's been there for 10 weeks. And it says, how could you use some of these sales techniques tomorrow? Or tell us about a time when you dealt with a difficult customer, or tell us about a time of how you sold this particular car. The discussions or assignments allows that person to respond thoughtfully with their experience. And the person that has been there for 10 years is going to say things that the person from 10 weeks is going to need. And so it really creates a bridge between your junior and more senior employees. We've seen it work so well. We've seen these things turn into real discussion boards, and it stays there. So if there's any turnover, that knowledge doesn't leave your module. It's right there, and it stays there. So that's really important. The difference between assignments and discussions is that the assignment asks the admin to say, pass, like they pass the assignment, it's good, or try again, like fail. And that's the difference between assignments and discussions. The reason why assignments would be good for the first go around of your courseware is because it is easier to loosen up in your education, in your training program, than it is to tighten up. What I mean by that is, if you've ever been in, let's say, either in high school or college, and your teacher gave you homework the first day, it kind of tells the students, oh, okay, I'm going to have to pay attention this semester. But if they make it easy breezy and loose in the first, couple months, and then on month 3 say, this is due on Friday, it doesn't work like that. You can loosen up, but you cannot tighten up. And so that's anyone who's ever taught before, they probably had that advice. It works the same in training. Assignments for that first go around would be, I think, a good idea, because then you get people into the habit of writing thoughtful responses. They know that if it's not long enough or full enough, that the admin's going to say, try again. And so they're going to get used to typing some of their experience and sharing that with their coworkers. So that's really important. The discussion part, but yeah, don't sponsor Christmas. Exactly. So the discussion part can happen in the subsequent weeks, because as soon as you got people used to sharing their experiences and they passed and things like that, then you can loosen up. Then it's discussions. You don't have to look at anyone's responses, even if you don't want to. They'll post up and people can respond to each other. So that's what I would say about that. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, what's great about discussions and assignments is that it really increases the peer-to-peer interaction. And like Sam said, the post can stay there. So, the more seasoned employees can go in and, submit, some content that maybe the newer employees didn't even know was a possibility. I just wanted to go back and show, for those of you that don't know, if I click this drop down arrow next to create a lesson here, this is where I can create a discussion, an assignment, or a virtual classroom. And what's nice is that you can also rearrange these in any order. I mean, I would recommend the assignment being, first, but there's some scenarios where you might want some of these to be maybe the first thing that they do when they come into a course. So you can just click and drag to rearrange these in any order that you wish to, which is nice. one other thing I wanted to mention too while I'm here is that if I go to course settings, I can click on this date setting here. So, this could also help kind of plan ahead. Maybe if I wanted for, this course to go out for maybe next week, Monday to Friday. It would still have to be published. So I can publish this and I can leave these dates on and it would be locked to all the learners until May 9th in this scenario. Just one thing to keep in mind here is that this is static. So anyone assigned to this course, this will apply. And if there were some people that, didn't complete it by this date, and you wanted them to complete that, you would have to come back here and maybe extend this out to, maybe the following Friday as just an example here. So I think in some scenarios it works. I think for others it might not. But you can also make a course mandatory as well. So that was something that, we also wanted to talk about in today's webinar. I can make a course mandatory and set a due date. And in analytics, you can also filter for, which courses are mandatory and which aren't. So maybe in this scenario, we have these 5 courses that we can say that they're all mandatory. Maybe something else that you can do is have a couple of courses that aren't mandatory that maybe, spark their interest. What I see a lot is maybe you have some like a subsect of employees that, are kind of like on a management track. Maybe you can just publish off or add them to a user group where they're shown leadership courses that aren't mandatory, but still courses that you would like for them to take and explore. So if you wanted to, have some kind of designation between the mandatory courses and those that, aren't mandatory and they can take them like pretty much whenever they have free time, you can distinguish between the two here by using this mandatory setting. You could also not put a due date on a mandatory course as well. And then it would just show in the Learners app an exclamation icon that this course is mandatory. You can also set prerequisites too, right? So, if I wanted to go in and set prerequisites, like if you wanted for them to complete these courses in a certain order, you can also, use prerequisites here, which could also help structure your training plan. I think, maybe in the week scenario here, maybe if, there are people that, were out on vacation for one of the weeks and they go ahead and maybe they go into complete week 2 instead of week 1 first. If you wanted to guide them along a path, using prerequisites is a great way to do that. Sam, do you have any other drops of knowledge here for the access rules tab that you can share with us?
No, I think it's good to see. So when you do access rules, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, you can see courses that are locked, but they're not unlocked yet.
You can, yeah. So if it's published, as a learner, if this is published, and I have this date on it, it will show in the Learners app, but it'll just be a gray lock on it saying that this course will unlock on May 9th in this scenario.
And it's nice to see that. I think it's just as a learner, it sparks curiosity of being able to see what's coming down the pike, to build anticipation for certain things that's coming up. So it's good to see what's coming up ahead. It doesn't feel like, oh, I took my course, there's nothing else here that's done. It's a desert. It goes, oh, no, there's a future to this. And I can, next month when I learn this is going to be great. So there's anticipation that builds curiosity. It feels planned. So from a learner's experience, I really like it. Yeah, but that's what I would say about that.
Cool. Yeah, and you could also too, like if you know that you want to publish like another course next, kind of what Sam was saying before about, mentioning topics from the previous course. Maybe in this case, maybe at the last lesson or module in this course, you can talk about what's coming next to also keep them interested. So that's another tip that I also like to share with some of the admins that I work with here. All right, let's go into week 2 now. So this is where we have a discussion at the end of this course here. But again, like if I wanted for this to be first, I can just click and drag this up, and this could be the first thing that they do before they come in and take the modules. I think in most cases it makes sense to have it last, but again, you can structure this in any way you wish. If I click on this discussion, it looks pretty similar here to what an assignment is. The main difference is that it's not graded. So an admin or a facilitator doesn't have to go in and grade it. And what's nice about discussions is that you can upload, as a learner, I can upload photos and videos. And I can also watch a discussion post, right? A discussion board. So as a learner, I can go into the Learner's app and I can watch this. And if there are any new posts on this discussion thread, I can get a push notification on that, which again is just a great way to help increase with some peer-to-peer interaction and engagement. This could also be something like in this scenario where some of the, employees that have been at your company, or maybe some people that have, worked in the field for longer, can really help, the newer folks out. I've also seen this too, also used as just like a general like discussion board post that lives outside of a course, that maybe people just post things about their lives. Maybe someone got a new dog, so they'll post like photos of their dogs or something like that. So discussions is a really great feature that we have, and it can be used in a variety of different ways. But I think it's most common, having it here at pretty much like the last thing they do before they complete out a course. And we do have the same requirements and user group visibility settings down here as well.
Yeah, and what's great about it too is because you don't have that onus of going, oh, I have to really impress my admin to pass here. Like you said, relationships can be built in discussions. We've seen it really since we first launched discussions. It's been pretty amazing to see when you see hundreds of people on discussion board. That's really amazing. What I really recommend doing is that one where it says, what it's set to, users must submit at least one post and one comment. So what that means is that they not only submit their answer to whatever question that is, they're also commenting on someone else's. So people are really pushed into more of a classroom setting, but imagine a classroom where everyone gets to speak and everyone gets to comment on somebody else's comment. That's pretty amazing. And so it's one of those things that we can do in EdApp that you might not be able to do in in-person training, or it can really make it feel so it's not just so alone. It's not siloed. You're not just doing your course and there's no one else doing it with you. It's really creates community, creates synergy, and it creates relationships. So it's a really good thing to do.
For sure.
And it's why we put it on week 2, just to reiterate, is because hopefully before in month 1 and week 1, we've kind of trained our learners to type a lot or like answer the question fully. So by the time we get to discussions, they're already used to submitting something that's a pretty full answer.
Right. Awesome. Thanks, Sam. I just wanted to mention that if I go to the discussion settings, this is where I could also set dates on this particular discussion, and I can also set prerequisites on this too. So, say if I wanted for this to be the last thing that a learner does before they complete a course, I can make all of the other lessons inside of this course be prerequisites to this. So they won't be able to unlock this discussion until they complete all of these lessons. All right, let me go back to the courses page here. In week 3, we had a virtual classroom here. And again, this is also in this little drop down here next to create a lesson. A virtual classroom is really great that if, say if you host maybe even like weekly meetings over Zoom or like another meeting platform, what you can do in NetApp is that you can come in and you can schedule it with a date and time. You can put in a description, and then here's where you can post the meeting link here. I know that, with everything going on in the world, that, a lot of things move from in person to maybe one of these meeting platforms. This is a great way that, even if you don't hold weekly meetings, it could be something nice that, maybe you just have everyone log on and they can discuss something, over this. In this example, it's a short meeting to discuss how we can identify asbestos in the field. So in this scenario, before they take any of the modules, we'll be able to go ahead and have a conversation about this. But, maybe as another example, you can have another virtual classroom that they have to attend after they go through all of these modules to see what they've learned. What I think is one of the best parts about this feature is you can post a recording here as well. So if someone wasn't here on this day and time, I can go in and post a recording, and as a learner in EdApp, I can go in and click on that recording, and it will take me, out of EdApp to Zoom to watch the recording. So this is a really great feature that, again, I think that it's just another good way that, especially if you have a spread out workforce, right? Maybe it's a good idea to get everyone together here and, have them come through EdApp to be able to, access that and then access the recording if they missed it. Sam, are there any other use cases that where virtual classrooms could work?
I think the biggest thing it does is it makes the recording and the meeting live in EdApp. So everything is living in EdApp that has to do with your training, even if it is an external link to a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams or whatever you're using for video conferencing. So I think it just creates that feeling for the learner that, oh, this is where my training is, and it's all in one place. And I think that's really important.
Awesome.
So I think we have about a few minutes left. Should we take questions, or what do you think, Bobby?
Yeah, we can see if we have any. Here for week 4 and week 5, I just have placeholders here for observations and group training when they come out. But
Oh,
again, like you can have group training be, in group training or observations be more in more other places. This is just the example that we came up with here. But yeah, if you want to take some questions, we can do that. And if we have some extra time, we can also touch on rapid refresh as well.
oh, right. Yeah, let's do that. We do have one question here. Would you compare contrast group training and virtual classroom? I think really the difference is the virtual classroom is a Zoom link, and group training, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, can be in person and you can have it all live in the LMS. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the other main difference is that you're pretty much going through an actual module and you're marking those people as complete in that module in that app, and that will flow through to analytics. Right. So, I mean, you could even in a virtual classroom just show everyone like an ed app, lesson or course or something like that. But they would have to go in on their own device and, complete that module for it to be counted as complete in analytics. Group training is a good way that if you have everyone in person, you could even do it over Zoom too, where you can just mark them as complete. Say they're there, you go through the lesson, mark them as complete, and then, that's it. So, because in this scenario, we'd have the virtual classroom and then they would still have to go through and take these modules. For group training, you would be able to mark them as complete because you would go through these with them. So that's pretty much the main difference there.
Awesome. Yeah, do you want to just show everybody rapid refresh? I think it's a real fun kind of thing to do.
So we have a couple I know in the example that I showed before, we have a couple of rapid refreshes scattered throughout. I think this could be really good to use as a pre and post assessment, right? So here I have a safety pre-assessment. So before anyone takes any modules, they can go through here and just take this quiz. Rapid refresh is a really good way to upload, a couple of multiple choice questions. You can actually do up to 100. And then once they're uploaded in the system here, I can enable a leaderboard. And then one of the cool settings we just came out with recently is I can allow learners to retry incorrect questions the next day. For a pre-assessment, I probably wouldn't have this toggled on, especially if you want to compare and contrast analytics between the two. But, I think this is a great setting that if you're not doing it in that fashion, that you can just tick this on. I can also add custom CSS and a logo to this as well. But, I can come in and schedule this out. So maybe we want for this to run, maybe for the whole month of May in this case. I can schedule this for the month of May. I could also use space sessions as well if I wanted to, right? So if I wanted to, maybe do a couple of weekly sessions, I could space this out as well too. Again, for the pre-assessment example, I don't know if that would make sense, but if you wanted just to drip a couple of multiple choice questions out to your learners per week, this is also a good way to, again, make sure that they're staying engaged. And it could be refreshing them on the topics that, they're learning in an app already. So I think between this and the brain boost sessions, it really helps with the forgetting curve that Sam talked about before. And again, if you don't want to overwhelm them, maybe you do a rapid refresh, maybe a little later down the line, maybe at month like 3 or something like that. But again, rapid refresh is just a great way to quickly send out multiple choice questions via a CSV sheet that we provide you here.
Right. And I think just as a conclusion, um, what we're showing you here is that anything that has to do with training in your workforce or on your team can be in the LMS in EdApp. And we are going to continue to make features and things that create a holistic experience. It's now not just lessons and slides. There really are other things that are coming into the mix here that really encapsulate a whole experience of learning.
Right.
So this
And
is a big deal. That the observations, group training, virtual classroom, all of those are really big deal to really encapsulate a wider experience and even just lessons and courses.
And I think what's great, yeah, what's great is that it's not just lessons and courses. They're actually, they have a wide variety of things that they can interact with, right? So as a learner, it's not just going to be like me reading something. I'm actually doing different things. There's different, aspects that I'm going in. I can see what my peers, feel, or what my peers think, which again is just could be some great insights for you. So, but yeah, I know we're a minute over time here. Doesn't look like we have any other questions. So, Sam,
Yeah,
just wanted to, yeah, thank you for your time here and thank you for all of your insights that you're able to provide today.
Bobby, thank you for taking the driver's seat. And for everybody, if you have any more questions about instructional design or EdApp, you can join the LinkedIn group called TrainOn. TrainOn is one word, powered by EdApp, and that's the LinkedIn group, and you can post questions in there. We are almost at 2,000 users, so there are 2,000 L&D people ready to answer your question. So come on in and join that group. It's called TrainOn.
I just put the link to the LinkedIn in the chat there.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, Sam. Almost 2,000 people already. That's great.
Yeah, I think we're at 1960, something like that.
All right, let's try. Let's hopefully we can get this, over 2,000 by the end of the week. So,
Yeah, awesome.
awesome.
All
All
right,
right,
thank you
everyone.
everybody for coming out, and thank you for staying. That's awesome. So yeah, have a great rest of your week.
Have a good one, everyone. Bye bye.